Today we're going to be talking hood pins. We're going to talk about the different styles. I'm going to show you how to get them installed, tell you why they're important. If you haven't been watching my videos, here's a good reason why.
Right 3+ into left. Whoa!
After going through that, I can tell you there's a difference in hood pins, and I've got good reasons why you might want to choose one versus the other. So stay tuned, and I'll show you. There are several different types of hood pins. Almost all of them go through a stud similar to this. The pin goes right through that hole. This is secured to the structure of the car. And then you got a pin that attaches on the hood. When you close your hood, that goes down and the pin goes in. Pretty simple. The most common style is one similar to this, where the pin is exposed on the top of the hood and it just slides in. This is a lightweight aluminum one from Sparco. Super light, which is really good. It's also got this ring here that secures over the stud, a little extra security from sliding out. Also, this guy is retained in the slot, so you don't have to worry about losing these pins. Worked really well. Generally really like these. The biggest problem, as you saw in my video, if this is out, when you're sitting in the car, you can't tell the difference. So you have to be extremely paranoid about checking this every time you get in the car, whether you were the last person to touch the hood or somebody else touched the hood, because you saw what happens if you don't. Another style, which is what I'm going to be installing today, are these Aerocatches. These sit flat with the hood, nice and flush. They've got a safety button here that holds that latch down tight. And as you can see there, that pin sliding in and out. And so that's how they work. Nice and flush. Why are these better? With that sticking up, when you're sitting in the driver's seat, you are going to know that your hood pins are not latched. Super easy to see, your co-driver will see it. Definitely worth the money in my opinion. If you like the other style better, you can add springs underneath the hood that pop the hood up a little bit so you can see it that way. But for my money, this is the easiest way. You get some added benefits, some security, some aerodynamics. There you go. Let's show you how to get these installed. I'll actually do a two-step process, so I can show you how to install the old style ones, and then we'll get these Aerocatches installed. First thing you have to do when installing hood pins is figure out how these things are going to mount. What's the best way to put these in? First most important thing is the structure underneath. Obviously, this is the only area on this car where I can mount the studs, and here's the hole from the last hood pins I have installed. I'm probably going to try and reuse that. I like the positioning, but really you can move it anywhere in here. I like to put them fairly close to these bumpers, because if you have the hood pins tight, you have to actually push down on the hood to be able to release the pin and get it out. And if it's close to the bumper, you're pushing down on the hood on the bumper. You're not pushing way out here where the hood could flex. So this is a pretty good position. You can measure relative to the fender, then close your hood, kind of mark it out, get an idea of where you're going to be at, make sure it's a good spot. In this case, the shape of the hood, it doesn't matter a ton where it's going to go, but if you have the option, try and find a little bit flatter spot. And then the next thing is orientation. Because this is going to go where this curve is, mounting it this way, it won't sit flat. So I'm actually going to follow the line of the hood. I'm going to mount them roughly like that, or this way, whichever way ends out working good. And then that way it'll be nice and flush all the way around, and we'll get it lined up with that hood pin. On these Subarus, first thing you have to do is take these headlights out, because you don't have access to the bottom of this beam, so you can't get the nut on for the stud. So let's get these taken out. Alright, at this point we're going to temporarily install these studs. There's a washer and nut, top and bottom. The exact height doesn't matter yet. You want them to be tall enough so that when you close the hood, you'll be able to see where it touches the hood and be able to reach up under here and mark it with a permanent marker. So here's our mark right in this area. I'll zoom in so you can see that, hopefully a little bit better. Our pin hits here. This is a double layer hood, so this spot here sticks down from the actual top surface of the hood, which is a good thing because for this first cut, what we're going to do is we're going to make a nice big cut, give us lots of access so we can make sure to cut the hole in the surface of the hood that we care about in exactly the right spot. Just like in our previous video where we installed and modified this hood, make sure you cover everything up really good, cover the paint, Cover the engine so no metal particles get in there. And make sure you really cover the glass because the hot metal will melt into the glass and leave pits everywhere. So let's cut this up, see what it looks like. There you go. We got through this bottom layer. We've got nice open access, and we should be able to cut our holes with no problem. And the hood's still plenty stiff. That's not going anywhere, so we're good to go. All right, we've got these all filed and smooth. We're ready to mark the hole. So we're going to go ahead and close this back on the pins, and we'll make a new mark where those pins are located. All right, now we're going to cut the hole in the outer skin of the hood, and this is the most important cut. Really take your time and be accurate. With the hood sloping down, which most cars do, and your pin sticking up, so if you're looking at it from the side, as that hood closes, that pin is actually sliding backwards. So keep that in mind when you make your mark on the hood. Remember that the actual hole is going to be slightly back, so don't get too aggressive cutting on the front side. Especially if you're running these style of hood pins. It took me a long time to install these and get them just right, because as you can see, your hole can't be a whole lot bigger than this rectangle, and I actually try and make it just the size of the rectangle. What I did was I took a drill bit that's a little bit narrower than the width of this rectangle, and I drilled 2 holes to make kind of a snowman, just enough room to get a rectangular file in there, and then you file it until that stud just barely will clear the hood when you open and close it. Then you locate this around that rectangle, get your holes drilled, and that will be done. The other added benefit to these Aerocatches is your hole is going to be huge. So you can really cut a pretty big hole and it'll still fit within the opening you're going to need. So that's one more thing I really like about these guys. Alright, we got a tiny little hole drilled here. Make sure everything lines up, and there you go. You can see the red through there. So now we know we're in the right spot. If you're using the old style hood pins, you just add another little hole just down here and open that up so you can start filing it. Since I'm putting the Aerocatches in, I'll go ahead and drill a pretty good size hole in that same spot so we can get this stud through, and then we can use our template and cut the hole. Alright, even with these big holes drilled, you can see the stud doesn't quite go through the hood yet. So I'm going to take a rotary file and open this up. Alright, on this hood, I feel like the best way to lay this out is in this direction. I'm going to kind of follow the line of the front of the hood here. That's kind of the line of the curve. And I think it'll sit best right in here. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball the front of this for now and put just a little mark here. That gives me roughly the orientation. Then the packaging comes with this template, and we've got crosshairs here, and I'll just very carefully line these crosshairs up, and then it'll give me the correct orientation. There you go. We'll just cut that out till the silver is just barely gone, and it should fit perfect. Let's try this out. Oh, perfect. That worked beautifully. I like it. Now we'll just take our hand file, we'll smooth off these rough edges, and then we'll drill some holes, get this thing bolted down. We'll just mark these holes with a Sharpie. Now we're going to carefully center punch each of these holes. Alright, we've got all our 3/16 holes drilled. Check it for fit. And that looks great. Everything lines up. Kit comes with this retaining ring on the backside that'll hold the nuts captive, and I think that'll work really nice. They also provide washers. I think if you want to use the nuts and washers separately, you can do that also. But I think this will work good because then I don't have to get a wrench on the back, and this will work really nicely. Drop this guy in. put the ring on it, and I've got access to all the nuts. I actually found that using a little pair of pliers here works nicely. We can get that started on the screw. Just like that. Alright, now we can do our final tightening with our 2.5 millimeter. Because those nuts are captured on the backside by that retaining ring, don't have to worry about getting a wrench or anything on them. They're locking nuts, so these won't back out. It's very well thought out. There's a great design. I'm really happy with these. Alright, the next part is to get these adjusted in height and then cut off the extra that's hanging out the bottom so we can get the headlights back in. So it turns out on my Subaru that this stud is all the way down or very close to it. I've got both nuts on here because I'm going to cut this off, and I need to leave a little extra room for the sheet metal that it hooks to, but we don't have to leave much, so we're going to cut it right about there. Leave enough room to put a nice chamfer on it. There you go. After quite a bit of fiddling, cutting it to just the right length, I put some red Loctite on here. Make sure that these don't come loose at all. And now that I've taken my time, I've got these all lined up. The pins go in nicely, latch down. It's beautiful. Love it. Alright, there's two very important things I learned. First, if you look straight down on this, notice that that pin isn't actually centered up and down in the crosshairs. It's actually a little bit toward the top side, and the reason for that is the angle of the hood. It slopes down quite a bit, so the part that's actually centered is where this pin goes through. So when you're lining up where you're going to make your cut, make sure that you're lining it up down where this pin's going to be and not the top of your stud. The other thing I figured out, which is pretty easy, is this slot on the bottom. Normally there's one slot down here on the bottom, and then there's one kind of up here on the side, but again, because of that angle of the hood, the pin came through at a little bit of an angle and wouldn't go straight in, so I just had to open up that slot, which is no big deal. There's plenty of structure there, so that's not going to affect anything. This was an awesome project today. It turned out really good. I've got the lightweight hood installed now with the super smooth, low profile hood pins. They've got the levers that'll be popped up if they're not latched. I'll be able to see them from the driver's seat. So now I won't have to worry about my hood pins anymore, and I'm really, really excited. Hit that subscribe button. I got more projects coming, and hopefully I'll see you out at the races.